How's it going, everybody? Great Say Geek here, and today this is going to kind of be a little bit of a laid-back video. In the background, you're just going to see gameplay of one of the operations, one that we've seen before in trailers, so if there's anybody worried about spoilers, yeah, you won't be really spoiled on this unless you've avoided all trailers. But today I really just wanted to talk about a few things, a few tips for those of you who are just about to start Space Marine with this game coming out at the time of this recording in just a few hours. I just wanted to give some tips of things that I've learned in my 35 hours of gameplay so far that I didn't necessarily know when I started, and just a few things that will help you in your journey. Now, I don't want to say too many things that are going to be spoilery. There are things that I want you to kind of discover for yourself, but for some stuff that the game doesn't necessarily tell you, I just wanted to list some things off here today. So in no particular order, let's just go ahead and talk about the first thing. Hey, so quick interjection here. This is a re-upload of this video. I actually misspoke when I talked about the Bulwark class for this next tip, so I kind of reworked it a little bit. So with the Bulwark class, if you are planning on playing the Bulwark class, understand that this class is a bit harder to parry with. Okay, I don't know why. I think it has something to do with the fact that the same button is also used for blocking. So make sure you're very, very precise when you're trying to parry. I recommend, if you're having a hard time parrying, try double pressing the parry button. That worked for my brother and he started parrying a lot more. So if you're having trouble parrying, and this is again with controller, try double pressing the button. I used to think you had to double press the button, but with some more testing, you just have to be very precise. If you hold the button down when you parry, like sometimes I do with other classes, he'll end up blocking instead. So you just have to be really careful with it and just understand when you're playing the Bulwark, you're going to have to practice around with the parrying system a little bit. It is possible, you can do it, but understand you may struggle parrying with the Bulwark class than you did with other classes. Okay, I have a very easy time parrying with the other classes, but Bulwark is a little bit challenging. And if you're playing with the Bulwark, just be prepared that you might struggle a little bit with the parrying system. The other thing I wanted to talk about as well is in operations, and by the way, this video is mostly going to be centered around operations, not so much PvP, because I haven't played a lot of PvP yet. In my 35 hours, it's pretty much been operations and the campaign. The next thing I want to talk about is in operations, don't go up too soon to the next difficulty, okay? The difficulties will tell you what the recommended level is, okay? Now, if you want to push it, by all means, go ahead and try to push it, but you're probably going to bring down your team. Okay? Level does matter. Your perks are important. How you level up your weapons are important. Okay, if you try to go up too high a level, okay, you're going to get stomped. I've heard some people complain about the higher difficulties being too hard, and they are difficult. But if you're trying to go in too early, it is going to be way harder for you, okay? If you're trying to do the highest difficulty and you're not probably level 20 or whatever it tells you to be, I think it's 20 or something like that, you are probably going to have a rough time. Your perks matter, they are important, they do help, so just keep that in mind. I know sometimes people want to do the highest difficulty right off the bat. Take your time, enjoy the game, you will get there. Now, the other thing on top of that I want to talk about is have a backup class that you're working while you're also working on your main class. The reason being is once you get to that higher difficulty with a character, if you join a game and you join into somebody's match and someone else is already playing that class, okay, you're going to have to choose another. And if you're going up in difficulty, that whether it's recommended to be level 10 and you have to switch, well, now you're level 1. Okay, so you're going to bring down your team quite a bit. They kind of fix that with maybe some better matchmaking or just some ways to work around that. But what I would suggest is before you move up to another difficulty, get at least one other class, if not a third, but at least a second class up to that level. So if you have to switch, you aren't going to have to be level 1 trying to go through while everybody else is at a higher level. Now, those being said about the difficulties, when you're with your buddies or you're playing the game, do what you want, do what's fun for you, but just keep that in mind. If you go up to a higher level too soon, you might have a bit of more difficult time and think that the game is very imbalanced. From what I've played so far, it has been very fair when I'm doing it at the appropriate level. Another tip is understand that in this game you are going to take damage a lot. Okay, the game wants you to fight. The game wants you to perform the executions. The game wants you to perfect dodge and perfect parry. Okay, you're going to get hit. If you're gonna, it's normal to get frustrated when you get attacked and you get swarmed. This game does a good job at making you feel like you're never safe. Okay, so just understand, you'll probably go through a lot of these operations where you're always struggling to stay alive, but you win, you made it, you did stay alive, you achieve victory. So just keep, that's a little thing, but just keep in mind, okay, you're gonna get attacked a lot, you're gonna take a lot of damage. Okay, it's not easy necessarily, and just try to position yourself in battle according to your class. If you're playing the bulwark, right, if you get surrounded, your shield's going to be less effective because it can't block all around you. Okay, so try and position yourself to keep people in front of you. Okay, utilize what the strengths are of that class that you're playing and be aware of the weaknesses. Okay, this game is a lot of fun. It gets really crazy, but just keep in mind you're going to get hit a lot. Okay, push through. There's ways to heal. Take advantage of the perks of the class that you're playing and your allies' classes. It's going to be okay, and it's a lot of fun. Okay, a few other things. When going through the maps of operations, okay, if you guys have played Darktide, this is where it's very similar to that. There are things you can find, very important things actually. One of the things you can find in the maps is something called a Guardian Relic. The Guardian Relic is basically a free revive. Okay, if you collect it and you hold on to it and you get downed, someone can still revive you, but you can also use the Guardian Relic, which will get you back on your feet. Okay, so it is kind of like a freebie, and it is really, really nice to have. Okay, so if you find them, hang on to it. It will help you. Another thing is something called a gene seed. This thing is a bit tricky. If you're holding on to it and you get downed, you lose it. Okay, if you get it, people have been saying you kind of become the VIP, right? Your team should be trying to keep you alive. And the reason being is if you can complete the mission while hanging on to it, your team will get a pretty decent chunk of experience to go along with obviously the experience you gained for the operation. So if you see those, I've only seen it a couple of times, but I've only recently started to look for it. So just be aware of that. The other thing, there is a little servitor skull that is on the map, especially definitely on higher difficulties. Collecting these will give you tokens that you need to increase the mastery rank of your weapons. Okay, and that leads me to my next point. Every weapon has certain weapons within tiers. Okay, you have your basic, you have your green, your purple, and your gold tier weapons. Okay, as you increase in difficulty in operations, you will be able to get the higher tier tokens that you need to unlock the category of that tier of weapon. Keep in mind, it is not guaranteed that you get this currency for completing the operation. I used to think that is not the case. You will get these under certain conditions. Like I said, if you find a servitor skull and you complete the mission, you will get one. At least on higher difficulties, mini bosses. Well, I say mini bosses because they appear within the operation. They're not necessarily end bosses, but they spawn during the operation. If you defeat them, they will drop one as well. Okay, so those are kind of the two ways that I know of that you can get these through playing operations. Okay, so just keep that in mind. The other thing is, speaking of kind of a currency, you'll probably learn this pretty quick, but just keep in mind, cosmetic currency and skill currency are the same thing. Okay, the in-game currency you get to unlock cosmetics, you will also need for unlocking perks, and for unlocking weapon skills. Okay, it's very, very valuable. Use them wisely. Don't just load up on a bunch of cosmetics. Okay, this game gives you in-game currency very generously. Okay, you'll always have something to unlock as you complete operations, but just keep in mind, if you get very cosmetic hungry, you're probably going to take a little bit longer to get your skills. Okay, another thing I want to mention as well is this game does have a little bit of an animation lock for certain things that you're doing. So when you're attacking enemies, try to attack wisely. Don't just be a button masher, because you'll find very quickly that you might do something that you didn't mean to do, and now an enemy's about to hit you with an unblockable attack and you're stuck. Okay, it's going to happen. All right, you can't avoid it 100%, but just keep that in mind. There are certain things that get you stuck in animations where you kind of have to take that second to recover before you can move again. So just, you'll figure that out as you play your class, but that's something to probably just keep in mind. That way when you're playing, think about what you're doing first, especially with the enemies you're fighting up against, because if you get swarmed, sometimes you get stuck in animations and there's just really nothing you can do, but just something to keep in mind there. Another tip I'm actually going to throw in there as well real quick before we end this video. This is something that is a bit tricky and a little bit deceiving. Okay, the blue parry window. Okay, that you'll see the little guys, forget if they're called the termagants or the hormagants, whatever, the little guys. Okay, you can press the parry button one time and you'll parry them. Okay, they'll do an animation, take them out. Okay, the bigger guys, okay, do not be fooled by the blue indicator. Okay, you cannot do the same thing with them. You can't just hold the parry button and it does the animation. Okay, you actually have to watch them and try to parry before they hit you. Okay, I don't know why they have that indicator on the big guys. I think it's supposed to indicate a move for both of them, but just understand, because it is a little off-putting and you'll think that you're parrying wrong. Okay, you can parry them, but just try to ignore the blue indicator on the bigger guys as best as you can. Just look at their moves. Okay, if anything, if the blue indicator pops up, just be aware that they're about to hit you. Okay, but don't get drawn into the trap of, oh, I see a blue indicator, let me just press the button. Okay, the game does a pretty good job at letting you know that it's one of the smaller ones versus the bigger ones, the bigger guys. But just keep your eyes peeled, pay attention to that, because once you figure that out, like I said, I have a fairly easy time parrying in this game. You just have to be paying attention. There are perks and actually skills that will help you have an easier time parrying. Which leads me actually into another tip the game doesn't tell you. Okay, weapons, like melee weapons, they're actually certain types. Okay, you have one that's called fencing that actually increases the perfect parry window. You have one that's, I believe it's called balanced. Okay, that it's a moderate opening, and then you have one that's, I think it's just block, and you don't have a perfect parry window. Okay, so each one, as you see the weapons and like the stats they have, you'll kind of see the trade-off for things that you're getting. But that's something you want to pay attention to as well, because if say you have a weapon equipped that's blocked, you may not have a perfect parry window and you might be wondering what's going on. So pay attention to that. I like fencing because I like to have my perfect parry window be quite large. Okay, but that's just another thing to think about. So those are the last two tips that I'm going to interject here. I thought of these after I edited the video. So anyways, these are the last two tips, and we'll continue on to the outro. Okay, the last thing I want to say isn't really a tip, but guys, this game is fun. This game is awesome. Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun. I've been thinking about it pretty much every day since it's come out. I've been playing it as much as I can since it's released in early access. Okay, you're going to have a really great time with this. It's not perfect. There are a few things. This isn't a review. We're going to get into review later down the road when I really wrap things up. But you're going to have a really good time with this. It's a lot of fun, especially if you guys have friends to play with. If not, the quick match is still fun. A lot of classes, a lot of customization, a lot of different builds. There's a lot to it, okay? You wouldn't think with 6 operations and whatever the hours of the campaign is. I think I probably put 8 hours in the campaign or so. I put about 30 hours into the game before I finished the campaign. Again, that wasn't just in the campaign, right? I was doing a lot of operations. But even though there's only 6 operations, I've replayed them so many times, and they're all so fun. There are some that are more fun than others, but I have not been burnt out yet replaying the operations. So just have fun, learn your classes, learn to destroy some Xenos and heretic scum in the name of the Emperor. Look out for your brothers. Yeah, your battle brothers will stand with you, and you will have a lot of fun in this game. So hopefully these tips help you a little bit. I know this is a pretty laid back video. Okay, I just wanted to get some brief thoughts. It's late for me. I know the game's about to come out soon, like I said, in a few hours. So there's going to be kind of minimal editing on this. But these are just a few things that I wanted to bring up just so you guys are aware of them before you guys start playing, especially that bulwark parry. Guys, if you're planning on playing the bulwark, that will change everything. Okay, if you were going into that thinking, you play another class and you're parrying with the bulwark the same way you're parrying with the other classes, you're going to have a difficult time. Okay, it will save your life a lot knowing that. Okay, remember, double tap the parry. Anyways, that's it for me. Please, if you guys are watching this, for those of you who have played already, leave some more tips in the comments. Let the community know what you guys have learned that helps you out. You know, if you're like me, I like to discover things on my own, but I also want people to know certain things to keep an eye out for, or just mechanics that aren't readily available, because it can put a damper on things. But anyways, that's going to be it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Can't wait to see you guys all in the game. It's a blast. It's going to be awesome to have everybody now being able to play this. And let's go forward together and purge the enemies of the Emperor and the Imperium.